All right, well, good morning, everyone. Hello, thank you all so much for joining us at Coffee and Quality this morning. I'm going to share screen so we can kind of get ourselves going. Hopefully you can see my screen by now. You can see screen? Okay. Great. So if you haven't already, welcome to Coffee and Quality. Please share your name and agency in the chat. It's always a great way to kind of warm up our space. Today's going to be an interactive session. So we're going to have some polls. We're going to go into some breakout rooms. We'll have a Google slide where you'll be able to compile your notes and thoughts. So hope you take another sip of coffee because we're going to get started here. So it's great to see everyone. If we haven't met before, my name is Jessica Davison. I'm the Director of Learning, Analytics, and Compliance here at United Way of Greater Houston. If this is your first time at Coffee and Quality, we really like to start with our ground rules. So how do we engage in this space together, this learning space? And I have 4 simple ground rules. If you've come quite a bit, you know there's actually always been 3, but I added one, kind of spice things up a little bit. So as always, this is a safe place to share and learn. Like I mentioned earlier, we'll be having breakout rooms, we'll be using the chat. It's a safe space to share where you're at, share your perspective, share your thoughts. It's non-judgmental, open and honest, and respect one another. And as we do that, let's hold an open mind and an open heart as we hear everyone. All of your agencies are doing amazing work, and your CQI, what it looks like with your data, it's all at different points along a journey of having this amazing CQI culture. And so let's keep an open mind, open heart, listen for things that you maybe didn't know or didn't think about. We all have such great perspectives to share. Your role is participate and share your knowledge, experience, opinions. This is really a space to grow that from learning and from one another. And as this is a virtual space, if it gets a little quiet, I might ask people to share aloud. It's always an invitation, not an obligation to share. You can always say pass. As always, I have my little commercial for Teams. So United Way uses Microsoft Teams to really communicate and collaborate with agencies and with staff in between these meetings that we have, trainings, collaborative meetings. So we have a page available to everyone on Coffee and Quality. That's where we share our resources, trainings, really anything about CQI, data, evaluation. We post it there. So if you're not there on our Teams channel, it is the place to be. So you can either email me directly and we'll add you into the channel, or you can just put your name and email in the chat and I'm happy to add you later today. So thank you all for that, for my little PSA on Teams at United Way of Greater Houston. So this morning, before we get into our session, the meat of our session, we have a guest here joining us today. So we have Chelsea O'Hara. She is from University of Houston's Hobby School of Public Affairs, and she has 2 amazing opportunities that she is going to share with y'all. So let's give her a warm Coffee and Quality welcome.
Thank you, Jessica, so much. And thank you, everybody, for letting me take a few minutes at the top of your meeting to share information about these 2 programs. Let me share my screen and get my slides together. All right, can you see the slideshow? All good?
You're all set.
Okay, thanks, Jessica. So like Jessica said, I work at the Hobby School of Public Affairs at the University of Houston. I'm a program director at the Hobby School. At the Hobby School, we were created in 2016. We currently offer a Master's of Public Policy degree. And this semester, we actually just launched 2 bachelor degree programs Bachelor in Public Policy programs. And we have several certificate programs as well. So I'm going to be talking to you about the Connect program and our Social Economy and Enterprise Academy. I work with the Connect program on a daily basis. I administer this program, so I'm going to spend a little bit more time talking about the Connect program, but I'll end with talking about the Summer Academy too. So our Connect program at a high level, we connect University of Houston graduate students with local nonprofits to help them solve data evaluation, data analysis, and research problems. And the project engagements typically last 3 to 4 months. This program actually started out of UT Austin's LBJ School of Public Affairs. They launched the program about 5 years ago. It's been very successful. The Travis County community has really benefited from the program. And so they tried to, branch out from Travis County, and we're really excited to be the first university in Texas piloting this program. So we launched it last fall 2021. We were running 3 projects, and this spring we are running 5 projects. We're wrapping up the current cohort in a few weeks. All right, so at the hobby school, we obviously recognize that community organizations, your organizations, are at the forefront of tackling very difficult challenges in our community. And we believe that by expanding data and evaluation capacity and research capacity, organizations can better understand their client and community landscape, gain meaningful insights into their own work, and achieve their desired impact. So our approach to solving this challenge is to increase access for community organizations to the intellectual capital and technical expertise at universities. So this will be by connecting you with a Connect Fellow. Connect Fellows have direct access to our professors at our public policy professors, and they're also available to work directly with community organizations. We're excited to provide this opportunity to students to introduce future leaders, our Connect Fellows, to applied research and evaluation career opportunities. And ultimately, our goal is to develop data measurement and program evaluation capacity within community organizations. So to get into the nuts and bolts of how this program runs, so the first step in our process is to scope these projects with the community organization. If you're interested in participating, at the end, I'll have a slide for how to follow up with the next steps to apply to submit your project idea. So once you submit that idea, I'll reach out to you and we'll have a 30-minute call to kind of just figure out how your idea can be realistically achieved in about 3 to 4 months. What are some very concrete deliverables that a student could work on, like 5 to 10 hours a week? Obviously, we want it to be, these deliverables can shift depending on how the students' work is going. Maybe the priorities change a little bit in the organizations. We're flexible with the deliverables, but the first step is to scope the project. Then we recruit students, and as I said, they're exclusively graduate students. Our students so far have been hobby school students and the Graduate College of Social Work, but we invite all graduate students on campus to participate. We then use an algorithm developed by UT Austin to match students with the organization. We'll provide, once organizations have been matched to the student, we'll share the student match with organizations. They'll have the opportunity to say, you know what, for whatever reason, we don't think this student is a good fit. That hasn't happened to us yet, but we always provide organizations the option to do that. We'll then host a kickoff meeting between the student and the organization so everybody can meet. We can set expectations, determine a communication cadence moving forward. We'll provide support to the student and to the organization throughout the whole 3 to 4 month project engagement. And then we'll wrap up the projects and finalize the deliverables. We have 4 different project buckets. The measurement strategy project bucket focuses on literature review, logic model support, metrics identification. The data collection and tool development bucket focuses on survey assessment, focus groups, and stakeholder interviews. The third bucket, data interpretation and analysis, is focused on data visualization, dashboard development, and data mining and analysis. And our final bucket, advanced analytics, is website development and database development. Most of our projects have been in the first 2 buckets, measurement strategy and data collection and tool development. That's where we've found that our students have the most expertise. The organizations that we've worked with have found that those are the buckets they're most interested in, at least in starting in. We have done one project with the data interpretation and analysis. and are open to doing all the projects. And if you had a more advanced project, we would just recruit more. We'd have a more fine-tuned process for recruiting students with those specific analytic skills. And forgive me for having a slide with so much text, but I did want to give you a very clear picture of what two of our projects looked like. These were both projects that ran last fall, but you'll see the goal and the deliverables for both. So for the first one, the goal was to improve this organization's ability to track and measure the outcomes and impact of their key initiatives. There were 3 deliverables. One was for the student to conduct research on the best project practices to identify key short and long-term outcomes. They then created a organizational level logic model and a data collection framework. The second project, the goal was to improve organization's ability to measure its effectiveness at fulfilling its mission and outcomes. Similarly, it started with a research deliverable. They then developed a homeowner survey in alignment with the key metrics from the first deliverable. And finally, they made recommendations for how to integrate this survey tool into their organization and leverage the results to inform their marketing, recruitment, and donor strategies. So for organizations, there is no program participation fee. At UT Austin, there is, but right now at the Hobby School, there's no fee for organizations to participate. We also are responsible for providing our Connect Fellows with a stipend. So again, this isn't on organizations, but I did want to let you know that students they do receive a stipend to recognize their participation in our program. It's between $1,400 and $2,000, and that amount is really determined on how advanced the project is, how much time per week they're dedicating to the project. So if you are interested in applying for the fall cohort, our deadline for organizations to submit their project ideas is July 29th. If you think that the fall is too soon for you, you can still fill out the application, and there's an option to select, the spring would actually work better for us. So you can go onto our website and this link, and then you'll see an apply now for organizations, and that'll take you to a Qualtrics survey where it's very quick. It's just really basic contact information and your project idea. And if you have any questions, please don't hesitate to email me, and I'm happy to jump on, a quick call just to talk to you more about the program and any questions that you may have. So that is the Connect program. And then I will also talk about our Social Economy and Enterprise Academy. It's a mouthful. This program, in contrast to the Connect program, is running this summer. It only runs in the summer. Last summer was the first summer we ran it. So it's a deep dive full-time project for students. It's open to both graduate students and undergraduate students. It's run jointly by the Hobby School of Public Affairs and the University of Houston's Economics Department. The purpose of this academy is similar to the Connect program, except in my mind, it's a bit more quantitative heavy, and it focuses more on business plans and venture plans. The students also work in groups, as opposed to the Connect program, it's one student for one organization. This program is about 3 to 4 students per organization. They'll work under the direct supervision of our faculty and the econ department's faculty, and we'll work to develop a social enterprise idea, conduct quantitative research, or create a venture plan. So we had 6 projects run last summer. These are 3 of the examples of the goals of the project. One was to assess the organization's membership structure and potential for growth. The students evaluated the impact rate of return of educational programs on membership enrollment and their finances. Another project was to evaluate the effects of expanding the client base for the organization's Meals on Wheels program. They made recommendations for adjusting their current staffing model that was necessary for client base growth. And another project was to develop a sustainable business plan for the organization's flagship program and to design a vendor fee schedule for the program to cover the expected loss of initial funding for the program in the short run. So this program is running this summer. We still have about 1 to 2 spots still available for organizations that are interested in participating. Again, there's no cost for organizations to participate. There's students, some students are receiving financial aid, others are not. It's not across the board like the Connect program. But if we're exploring too how an academy project can then transition into a Connect project for the fall. So it's not, the engagement doesn't have to stop after the summer. There's an opportunity for the work to continue. So at the bottom, you'll see the email address for Dr. Pablo Pinto, who's a professor at the Hobby School. He is leading on this program for the Hobby School. So if you're interested, you can email him. You can also email me. But again, if you'd like to just have a further conversation about if this program is appropriate for your needs, we can do that too. There's no formal application process for this program. And that is, sorry for the spiel about those 2 programs, but hopefully, there's future collaboration opportunities between us, and I'm happy to answer any questions you'll have about the program.
Great. Thank you so much for sharing about your programs, Chelsea. When I first learned of them, it seemed like I often hear from staff at nonprofits about just different struggles they're having with their data and all kind of stages of the data life cycle. And so it was a great, wow, this is a great resource available to them, especially considering it's a free resource, because we know sometimes resources can be challenging and limited. If anyone has any questions, feel free to unmute, raise your hand, use the raise hand feature, or put them in the chat. And I really liked how you could combine, the C Academy could build off into the Connect program if you have a really big kind of challenging data type question.
Yeah, exactly. We'd love to. I think having that continuity would be great to really dive in for, a 6-month plus period. We have 2 of the organizations we worked with in the fall have actually carried over into the spring. So that's, about an 8-month long project, which I think, and we've had the same Connect fellow doing the work too. So they've both really enjoyed that experience to work for that long together. And I'm going to put my email in the chat and the link to the Qualtrics survey for the Connect program, just so you don't have to go digging through our website.
Right. Well, thank you so much, Chelsea. I know that'll be definitely helpful resources because today we're talking about strengths and areas of improvement in CQI. And so hopefully you'll be able to stick around and kind of hear what's happening and what those are, because I think there'll be a lot of great opportunity to reach out after we kind of process today. So again, thank you all. Thank you so much, Chelsea, for joining us. And we'll kind of keep back into our session.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Great. Well, today we are talking about strengths and challenges in our experience with CQI, in our programs, and in our agencies. And many of you, if not all of your agencies, submitted an application for our funding during our last investment process. And in that application, there were several questions about CQI. And why were there so many questions, you ask? Well, quality is a core component and really a pillar to our investment in nonprofits. So we invest in high quality programs and services. And one of the questions in the application about CQI, it asked to describe which elements of the cyclical process are strengths for your agency and which still need improvement. And while today, we are going to unpack the results from that and look at the common strengths and the common challenges across all the agencies that applied. But before we get started, I wanted to kind of go back to basics and make sure we're all on the same page about what it is United Way is talking about when we're talking about quality and about CQI. So United Way defines continuous quality improvement as the systematic use of data to improve the effectiveness of programs and services and communicate their value. It's really 3 parts to that definition: systematic use of data, improve the effectiveness, and communicate your value. When you have all three of those, you have what United Way refers to as CQI. It was interesting when I was kind of reading through all the responses and doing my little qualitative analysis of that, that you all reference CQI, but a lot of y'all reference CQI with other names. And so what is that? That quote, "A rose by any other name would smell as sweet." Yes, y'all call it all kinds of stuff. And so I loved it. Learning cycles, performance and quality improvement, peer review committee, plan, do, study, act, Six Sigma, quality assurance, quality management improvement, quality improvement, right? There's a little word cloud for you so you can see, but improvement, quality, performance, you had some kind of mixture of that if you weren't just calling it CQI. So we know we're calling it that, but again, it goes back into how does United Way define that? And so United Way defines it as the systematic use of data to improve the effectiveness of programs and services and communicate their value. So that's really what we mean when we're talking about CQI. And that's just the definition. But what does that look like in practice, right? So it's a human-driven cyclical process. It's formalized. I think that's what really like sets it apart, is that it's formal. It's not just like, oh, on a whim, we're going to do this, right? Like you have some kind of structure to it. And it's also not about an expensive software system. It's truly about the people on the team. And spoiler, that was a lot that came up was people. So, you know, that the people, the team, that's what puts value in your CQI process. It begins with service delivery. That's the work that you do every day with clients that you serve. As part of your service delivery, you're collecting data. Then you review your data with your CQI team, who then makes recommendations, which can be a basis for program modification or improvement. And then service delivery begins again. It's all this cyclical process that's happening. And it's evolving, right? Like it's constantly evolving, because as you're doing implementation and you're taking it back, seeing what worked, what didn't work, it continues to evolve. It's alive. It's not stagnant. And that's also something that really kind of came out through the responses and commonalities. And to be honest, I often blaze through that cyclical process, like to be honest with you, because I'm well versed in it, right? Like I've seen it from the other side and I see it on this side at United Way, but I really wanted to unpack the process and like, what is it when I say, or we say service delivery? And so here's some definitions of our cyclical process. So service delivery, that's the work conducted by your programs and services. It's what y'all do every day. Data collection, formally collecting data, and really information, because data, it can be numbers, letters, words, it can be the whole thing, observations. So it's really formally collecting data and information as part of your service delivery. So that really pins that systematic piece of our CQI process. And then your CQI team reviews. And I love that we have that CQI team tag to review. So it really puts there like who is reviewing this data, because I'm sure a lot of y'all are managers or direct staff or leadership, some level, right? And so everybody has a look at data. Everybody maybe or so is interested in what's happening in their program. But it's that CQI team that's really examining or assessing the data results. So looking at the analysis and then interpreting what they're seeing, like what does this mean? And then your CQI team then makes recommendations. So they suggest or propose possible changes that support improvement. And then they decide which changes to implement. Because y'all know, I love a radical idea. Like I'm all about throw something out there. I think I say like throw the spaghetti noodle on the wall and see what lands. Sometimes it does not land. Sometimes it is not appropriate. And I'll say that right here. So it's going from what are the recommendations and then, all right, what are we going to implement? And so that bridge can kind of come into the implementation. And so that's what those are those recommendations you're putting into effect in your program. And that's all going to look different. So those are just the baseline definitions of that cyclical process. Feel free to drop questions in the chat. I saw somebody with a question about seeing the PowerPoint afterward. Yes, I'll share the slide deck and the recording, so you'll have all this as a resource afterward. So the other thing I wanted to define too, because it often came up in the review of all the responses, was the CQI team. So the CQI team is the human driven in the cyclical process. Every CQI team, every CQI culture, needs a CQI team. And so that is a diverse team of individuals representing all departments, all levels within the organization to reflect on your results and make suggestions for improvement. They meet regularly. At a minimum, they should be meeting quarterly to review results and make recommendations into improvement. So there, even in the way we define CQI team, we're like reverting back to that cyclical process for like what it is they're supposed to be doing. And then this is really important to make, when I saw the strengths that were coming up, like people that were like, yeah, we're really strong in this. This is our strength. It came back to that CQI team has some kind of authority within the organization to make recommendations and see those recommendations implemented within a program. I'm sure we've all been in a meeting somewhere where you're like, yeah, we're talking about this, we're doing about this, we're making plans, but then nothing happens. Like, oh, it's like so defeating. Like it hurts my heart when that happens. And so those CQI teams have to see the results of what they talk about, what they review back into action to really make it successful. So I've kind of unpacked some definitions there for you. And now I want us to open up the chat and really and let's do a quick little chatterfall. Because you might be thinking to yourself, like, how does CQI look at my agency? Oh, yeah, what does my CQI program do? Or who is on our CQI team? And so those are all really great questions. And I want us just to spend a little time. So in the chat, if you can name the ways that your agency or your CQI team is already doing CQI. So it can be anything. There we go. Thank you, Claire, for getting us started. Focus group of clients. Yeah, that's great. Some other examples: surveying clients, CQI team meetings, creating improvement plans, quarterly CQI meetings. Thanks, Emily. Client survey, analyzing client results. Yeah, y'all are doing acts. Those are definitely great actions, great things that your CQI teams are doing. Annual resident surveys. Oh, that's a great one. Monthly data review. Bi-weekly CQI team meetings with case managers to review ESG, case files. Great. Surveying clients, reviewing data. A lot of commonalities here. We have follow-ups with their clients. Oh, that's great, Stephanie. Reviewing, modifying processes, surveying patients, quarterly CQI meetings, client surveys, CQI improvement plans, review data. Thanks, Tracy. Oh, great. Y'all keep them coming. Put the things that y'all are doing in there. Because you're all doing it. It's kind of like that name. Like maybe you don't call it CQI, but you call it something else, and you're all doing very similar actions related to CQI. So it's especially that when you really unpack that human driven process and all those parts and pieces. So thank y'all for sharing those. So as we kind of keep going on, I'm going to show you the results of what we analyzed to see, okay, what were the commonalities? Well, let's do a quick poll because I want to hear from y'all, from your perspective. What are your agency's greatest opportunity for growth in the cyclical process? So we're going to start with area for growth and we'll end with the strengths in our session today. So I'm going to launch the poll. It's anonymous, don't worry, we won't tell anybody. But in your opinion, from your perspective, what is your agency's greatest opportunity for growth in this cyclical process? I'll give you a couple minutes. All right, everybody's answering. Give a few more minutes. Okay, it's looking good. No spoilers, I won't tell you. And there's no wrong answer. This is your opinion, your perspective. Because I bet somebody from your agency is thinking something different. You all have different ways you interpret what's happening at your organization. So keep them coming. Give it another couple of seconds or so. Okay, I think it's kind of slowed down a little bit. The votes were coming in. All right. Okay, I'm gonna close the poll. Okay, here we go. I'm gonna share the results. All right, so we've got data collection. 36% said that was their greatest opportunity for growth, followed by team review. I'm gonna write these down. Okay, so data collection And then we got review, then implement, then oh, a tie with recommendation and service delivery. Okay, okay. Thank y'all for doing that. Let's see what the survey said. Stop sharing.
Did anyone feel like they wanted to pick more than one?
Ooh, that's a good question. Yes. Oh, I saw a head nod. Yes, yes, yes. Yeah, sorry, I made you pick one. I'm sorry, but it's okay. Yes, Linda Rucker, yes. Made you like pick that top one. I know. All right, so let's look, because that's a good point. Because in the survey results, like when I analyzed y'all's application responses, yeah, y'all name more than one for sure. So here we are. Recommendation was the top one, followed closely. So it was close, y'all, by data collection, then review, then implementation, and then 1% survey delivery. So similar. Let's look. But in the quick little poll we just did, data collection was the top one, which really, when I was like kind of reflecting on y'all's results from the application, I was a little surprised that data collection wasn't in the top, but 25%, 27%, it was right there neck and neck really. Then followed by review, then implementation, and then recommendation. So y'all kind of had recommendation a little bit lower than what came through that application. So again, different perspectives. Maybe somebody else submitted your application, and so it'd have been interesting to see. But that's what we saw from 140 responses to that question I mentioned at the beginning of, which of the elements of the CQI process are strengths for the agency, and then which still need improvement. So let's unpack some of this, because I'm going to tell you a little secret. Regardless of your agency size or the scope of your services, you have a lot more in common than you think. Yes, large size agency, mid-size, small. Y'all all have different obstacles and challenges. I hear that. There's different things that come up, but there's a lot more in common than you think about, than you kind of like let on to be like, oh, wow, there really are other people in this boat with me. So when we look at CQI team recommendation, really some of the themes that were really coming up were about time. Like, we don't have time to do this. Like, it's time consuming to take that recommendation and really sit down and review it with the team, to have time to brainstorm, right? Like, I like in these trainings to like have a little time to brainstorm, because we often don't take time to just brainstorm and think of different ways to do things. And then risk came up a lot. Like, there's some element of risk when we put recommendations out there, and sometimes staff are hesitant and resistant to fail. Like, that hurt my heart. I was like, oh man, like, put it out there, try it, because you don't know until you know, right? Until you put it in. So that came up a little bit. And then resources kind of slid back into time as well, but cost. Some changes require cost. If you're trying to implement something, updating it in your data system, that maybe takes a little cost associated with it. So, that came up for recommendation. For data collection, that came up as well. Time consuming. Consistency with our data collection came up quite a bit. And then too much data. When you have too much data, it can just bog down and you just want to shut it all out, right? So it really creates that challenge for everyone. And then your CQI team, when they're reviewing the data, reviewing the results, they maybe are hesitant or don't really want to engage in the conversation. This was like a volunteer, you're on the CQI team, and they're not really like bought into it. Time, maybe they don't have time to sit and review the data, to interpret it, to have that discussion. It's just not valued. And so that came up quite a bit in the responses. And then for implementation, again, time came up. The time to implement, to make the action plan, to brainstorm, pilot, evaluate, that follow-up. Like, yeah, we implemented it, well, what happened? If it's not an immediate failure or immediate success, sometimes you don't see like really what was the result of that implementation. And then turnover. Staff turnover came up a lot, but it did come up the most when it was referenced to implementation. And so when we kind of sit back and see like, what are those the common challenges, it was really centered around time and people. And that can be really hard to like, how do you process that? What do you do? What's your next step? And so, it's a common thing that y'all are all faced with that really does come up with us when we do this CQI process. So that's where I want to kind of take a moment to really just kind of unpack this a little bit more with y'all in breakout rooms. So you're going to go into a breakout room and you'll pick either A or B. So when you think of your cyclical process, share about a time when something didn't go well and what you learned as a result. I think my thought here is let's normalize and celebrate failure. You tried, you learned, you're going to grow. So I want to give you that opportunity. If you're not ready for that at 9:36 in the morning, it's okay. You can go to B. And it's, if you could wave a magic wand and change one thing about your CQI team, what would it be? So I'm going to put y'all into breakout rooms. But before I do that, you'll have a Google slide where you can kind of jot your notes down collectively. So regardless of what breakout room you're in, we're on this first slide right here. I put it in the chat. You can come over here. You can take a Post-it note as you're kind of talking with your breakout room and, you know, write your thoughts. So, and just to help in these breakout rooms, let me recreate. Just to help in the breakout rooms a little bit, you will, whoever has been at their agency the longest will start their sharing first. So my friends that have been there for a while. And it's random Harry Potter style. It's randomly assigned. You'll be in with a variety of people, maybe somebody you know, maybe somebody you don't. Feel free to start quickly with like name, agency, that kind of thing, get to know each other before you dive in, but you either A or B for your question that you'll spend. And you'll have about, I'm gonna give you all about 14 minutes or so to do this. So, all right, so I will see y'all in a little bit. If there aren't any questions, I'm not seeing any, it's always a good sign when y'all are already over in the chat, in the Google slide. Okay. See y'all in a bit. Okay.
Oh, I left my room.
Welcome back, everybody. Hey, Nikki. Great to see everybody. The Google slide was populating. I loved it. I love it when I see a populating Google slide. Hopefully you had a good conversation in your breakout room, either kind of sharing what your thoughts were around A or B, really about the areas of improvement for CQI for you at your organization. I want to take a moment and read one of the when things didn't go well, what we learned from that failure one. And I'm going to pick one, but if you feel so moved because you want to celebrate your failing forward, I want to give you the floor as well. But the one I want to pick, I saw it come in early and it really resonated because I think we've all been there with like staff turnover and like when things are going great and then staff leave, they have another amazing opportunity. And then just that, you know, struggle of getting it back on track, getting it continued as you have that. And so the person put, they did a full overhaul and spent a lot of time observing, took information from data and summaries to make changes. Turnover did make things challenging and people they had so many unanswered questions. You know, that historical knowledge goes when people leave your organization, right? And so the time investment was lost due to turnover. And so, yeah, got to celebrate that person for leaving, but then also really how do you regroup and do that? Anyone else feel so moved to share either their response from A or B from their breakout room? No pressure. It's an invitation, not an obligation. Yeah.
I can go ahead and go. We spent more time on question B, but it was interesting just we talked about buy-in, like not just including people across the agency, but how do you then really make sure that every person at the table knows and understands that their opinions and thoughts are valued, even if we're not talking about the program that they're in or an area that they are maybe feel like they're the expert in. Getting that outside opinion. And then that opened up into a larger conversation about opportunities to involve volunteers, board members, and clients in your CQI team and what that looks like. And it was a lot of us just asking questions, but I think it was helpful to just get that thought process going.
That's great. Thank you so much, Tracy, for sharing that. And, you know, questions always lead to different questions and different answers, different ways of thinking about things. So I'm glad y'all had that. So all right, so we're gonna keep moving forward because I want to spend some time. Let's wrap it up to strengths. So I'm going to drop a poll here and would love to from your perspective. What is your agency's greatest strength in the CQI cyclical process? So sorry, you can only pick one. What's that top strength? Service delivery, data collection, CQI review, CQI team recommendation, or implementation. So what's your strength? Give you a few moments. Get my Post-it note ready so I can write your responses. What comes up to be the top one? Thank you all for voting in the poll. Keep going a little bit until it slows down. All right. I think it's slowed down. So if you're going to vote, vote now. I'm going to end the poll. I'm going to share the results. Probably no surprise here. Service delivery, 51% said that's y'all's top strength, followed by data collection with 32%. Things can be a strength and an area for improvement. I think we all are a work in progress, right? I put that out there. Then followed by CQI review with 11%, 4% was CQI team recommendation, and 2% for implementation. So definitely see that. And I think we're going to see that in the survey says results. So here we are. This is what you said from the application from 140 responses. Service delivery by a landslide, 42%, followed by implementation. So that was a flip. Today, that was the last one for you, the lowest rated one in y'all's poll. But in the applications, implementation and CQI review were both tied at 19%, and then CQI team recommendation for 13%, and then data collection for 7%. So I understand this was an application for funding. And so yes, you're going to really pile into service delivery. So maybe a little skewed in the application responses, but it was great to see. It was, confirmed by y'all's poll today. And that was really the commonality I saw when I was reviewing this, right? Was service delivery. Yes, y'all are good at what y'all do. Brag on yourself. Y'all do amazing work. People's lives are changed because you are in their life. So round of applause. Thank you all for the work that you do every day. And then when we unpacked the other areas, when it came to a strength in the cyclical process, what we saw for implementation was really around turnaround time. So you were quick at implementing those recommendations, quick at following up to see what was happening with the implementation. That really came to life when you were comparing all those that thought implementation was a strength. For CQI review, a couple of things came about. It was consistency in reviewing your data, meeting monthly, having those discussions where staff felt they were comfortable and they felt supported by sharing. That really goes to the CQI team and creating that environment where everyone can share their perspectives. So your CQI team should have a wide variety of staff who represent different departments, different levels of leadership in your organization. And so having that table where everybody can share was really the strength that came to light. And then frequency, right? Like often having discussions and reviewing data. For recommendation, what really was there was about using the data, using the review, bringing it in, bringing those ideas and implementing those recommendations was the main driver for a lot of the commonalities there. And then for those that had data collection as their strength, it was that they had accurate, consistent data collection processes. And that goes really, for me, that went back to that systematic process outlined. That was when it became a strength for them. So if that's a challenge for you, kind of taking a step back and looking, how is this a systematic process for us? Could anybody with fresh eyes, brand new to your organization, pick up your process for data and be able to take it and run with it? And if they struggle with that, that's maybe an area to kind of focus in on. So really across this, when you lifted up all the strengths, it really came back to consistency and utilization. So how are we utilizing the data that we're doing, and then consistency in that utilization? All right, so here we are. You're going to go back into breakout rooms. Last round, but this time we're going to talk about strengths. So the two questions here are, when you think of the CQI process, what shines the brightest for your agency? Or B, what is your CQI team's superpower? And for this one, when you get into the breakout rooms, for my fellow Taurus, if you have a birthday coming up, you will start your breakout rooms conversation. So let me get y'all squared away. You'll go back into the same ones. Hopefully that's okay with everybody. Hopefully you had a good round that time. I'll give you this time a little bit, about 12 minutes to go in. The Google slide, it's the next slide there. So the two questions are A, when you think of the cyclical process, what shines brightest for your agency? And then B, you can do B, what is your CQI team's superpower? So I'll open your breakout rooms and we'll see you just in a little bit. Hello, welcome back. Welcome back, everybody. Welcome, hello, hello. It's usually a good sign when people aren't like automatically coming back in from their breakout room. That means they're in a good conversation. So hopefully you had some time to really like brag about your agency, brag about your CQI team, brag about the work that you're doing with CQI, with your data. And I'll highlight one, but then would love to open the floor up to anybody who wants to share about what they heard in their breakout room or what they put, just as a way to hear from other rooms. But I really love the one that it was everybody's recommendations and insights are valued by senior leadership, and we learn from each program. You know, having that, like somebody's hearing you, they're valuing your input is just so key and critical to like success of any CQI team. So it was great to see that like as something that shines brightest for that person. So anyone else, if you want to put it in the chat or if you want to come off unmute and share aloud, I'd love to hear. It was nice to see a superpower of data collection happening. Like that was really great. See some head nods there. It's an invitation, not obligation. If anybody else wants to share aloud.
One thing that came up a lot in our room, Jessica, was almost over collection of data by some organizations. And so making sure that the data they were collecting was actually being used and trying to discourage wasting resources on collecting unneeded data.
Yeah, that's a big one. Yeah.
And I was also in Linda's room, and I believe it was Darby. I don't know if you want to unmute, but I thought you, you know, with the superpower for your organization, with having someone outside of the organization being a chair, I think that'd be very useful. I don't know if you want to share kind of the background on all of that.
Sure. So the chairperson for our CQI committee is actually a parent volunteer. We work with adults with special needs, so their parents are pretty involved. But it took away, very early on, we came across like staff members not wanting to step on toes by maybe really being honest with their opinions about how things are working. We deal with staff members maybe not wanting to speak. It was never rude or ugly, but speak out against management. They were uncomfortable saying, I don't think this is working the way this person thought it would. They tended to be kind of yes men at times. And so having the Susan come in and be the chairperson of this committee and really just run with things, it took some of that away. I feel like all of our staff members were much more comfortable being honest in the feedback that they were giving, and it just opened things up in a really wonderful way for us. So she was our superpower, and the way she's really been able to take the lead and make it a much more comfortable space for everybody to be very honest with their feedback.
That's great. Yeah, I love that. You need that catalyst. Like who can create that environment where everybody can share their input, where we're all values, like we value all perspectives. And so it's great to hear. And then that was a parent, right? Like somebody who's been involved in your programming from a volunteer perspective and a
Yes,
client.
she really understands what our goals are, but she was outside enough to really just be open to a lot of perspectives, and everybody was very comfortable with it. It was a really, really good change for us that has really set our committee kind of in the right direction.
Yeah, I love it. It's that catalyst, right? And that's why I say that. I said it twice, because that's what worked for y'all at New Caney, New Horizons. And so what is it in in another organization that's going to work for y'all to really create that space and environment where everybody can share perspectives and its value? So finding that, it takes a little time, it takes a little troubleshooting, but it's possible. Anyone else want to share anything they heard in their breakout room, either the first one or the second one that maybe they're still kind of like thinking through or thinking about?
Well, I guess to continue sharing from our group, Clarissa from Goodwill Houston, their superpower had a lot to do with their data collection, because they have such an extensive intake that they're getting good information from their clients, and they're really able to direct you in a lot. Maybe you came in for this one thing, but because of this intake paperwork, we now have all this information, and we know we can quickly direct you to veteran services and this and that. And so that was their superpower, which I thought was awesome, to be able to have such an intake process that you could so quickly network and get multiple resources for your client quickly within your organization.
Definitely. Thanks for bragging on Clarissa. Oh, Goodwill. Yeah.
I was gonna say, oh, thanks. I was like, I really loved our breakout rooms. I feel like there's never enough time, because we were just in the middle of a conversation. We're like, oh, go back to the group. But it was very helpful to hear from the different organizations, and especially ones that focus on, like Family Houston and their focus, and to have New Horizon. So just the different, I know Linda talked about her struggle as far as the gathering information or data from students and working with, K through 12 areas. So it was really nice to hear the different, just a variety. So like you learn something new from each one, even if it may not directly be something that your organization, it may be something that you can kind of implement in it. So it was nice.
Great. Thank you for sharing that. I love that utilization came up from what I'm hearing, right? Like utilizing all that information, all that data you collect, because the other side of that is over collecting data and we're not using it, right? Like that is a double-edged sword right there, which is a great thing to talk about. And I think I've just planned a future coffee and quality. So thank y'all for that. But we're coming to the end. And so I shared the feedback form just to kind of like prime that up, because want to continue to make sure coffee and quality is meeting your needs. And today, you process strengths, we process challenges, really kind of talked about the cyclical process for CQI. But maybe you're like, I need a little more support. I need a little more help. And so hopefully my reference to Phone a Friend and Who Wants to Be a Millionaire is resonating with everyone. It's a game show where they could phone a friend, or they could like narrow their options down to 50-50, or they could poll the audience if they needed help answering a question. So I am your Phone a Friend. You can call me, you can email me, we can talk about your CQI process, because I don't have all the answers, but I know a lot of people who have been in a similar boat who I can help connect you to just learn from and continue to grow. Either it's in this network or outside of this network. And that's why I also put Chelsea's information down there too. So if something came up for you and it's a challenge that's just gnawing at you, I think the Connect program is a great opportunity to really like kind of get a little support, get a little phone a friend, get a little somebody else on the outside to come in and kind of have some fresh eyes there. So thank you so much for giving you those two options, and thank y'all for joining us today. We have a few announcements at the end. I dropped the survey to get your feedback. We have our next Coffee and Quality in August, and that one is going to be about getting client feedback. How do you obtain it? All the different ways. We'll be spotlighting some agencies that really do that well. So hope you'll join us on August 4th for that Coffee and Quality. Another opportunity to give us your feedback is we have recently at United Way embarked on a partnership with Kinder Institute. And so before we set out our research agenda for what we're going to focus on, we want to hear from y'all. So I'm dropping 2 links, and would love for y'all to just take 5 minutes before you head off into your next meeting to give us your thoughts and feedback on kind of data and research and what we should be focusing on. Would love to hear that from y'all. So there's an English and a Spanish version of that as well for y'all. So thank you all so much for joining us today. We will hopefully see you again at Coffee and Quality on August 4th. So take care and have a great rest of your day.